All right, so looking at these guys, Bud Crawford, 38-0, 29 knockouts, 5'8", 74-inch wingspan. He's coming off a TKO victory over Showtime Sean Porter. Also has wins over, Kell Brook and the Mean Machine. He's taking on David Avanesyan, 29-3-1 with 17 knockouts, 5'8" with a 68-inch wingspan. So Avi, he also lost to Mean Machine and also Lamont Peterson. He has a win over an older Shane Mosley. So looking at this fight, I think, looking at Terence Crawford, like you said, Will, pound for pound, top, one type of talent, a lot of boxing IQ, switch hitter, one of the best jabbers in the game, but he can fight, out of orthodox or southpaw, and he's equally good in each stance. It's not really one that he's really better at. If he is, you would say southpaw by a margin. He got a pretty good snap-on punches, where he can catch guys with these awkward punches and get them out of there. Great finisher. David Avanesyan, he basically one of those guys, tough guy, but more so built for a guy he's built for an up-and-comer like Ortiz or Boots to test themselves. But over the last few years, he did have kind of a career resurgence because there was a time after his few losses that a lot of people kind of wrote him off and thought he was done. But he's a tough guy. He likes to exchange, which I think is going to be kind of his downfall against someone like Crawford. It can serve him in some parts, but be his downfall in others. So in this fight, I think Crawford is going to try to get some rounds in and shake some of the cobwebs off. So I do think there will be about 2 to 3 rounds. The first 2 or 3 rounds will be the most interesting, and I think that's when Avanesyan will have a good shot to make things happen. And we know that Bud is more hittable in the first few rounds, and also so at some points he has shown he can be hurt and have a chin that's kind of shaky sometimes. It's just that once he warms up, he just turns into this dog. So I think that's kind of how this fight is going to play out. I think the first 2 or 3 rounds will be interesting. But once Crawford, settles in his groove, I think he is going to try to get some rounds in and box a few rounds. So I see him stopping Avanesyan about the 8th round. I think he's going to stop him around the 8th round, and like I said, he's going to get some rounds in. But once he starts hurting Avanesyan, I think it's going to happen around midway into the fight. That's when he's going to step on the gas and stop him. So what do you guys think going to happen?
So the guy lost to Lamont Peterson, lost to Idris Mean Machine Kavalauskas, a fighter that Bud knocked out. So why in the are we having this fight is what I'm trying to figure out. But anyway, this is what I would call, a ridiculous matchup in the sense that I just never seen this before in the sport of boxing, when you have the fight that everybody is clamoring for, and then you have one of the combatants just, leave negotiations to fight a fighter that most people have never heard of. Now, boxing fans or true purists know who David Avanesyan is, but this is any other fighter that's in this situation, this would be considered a dud throughout the history of boxing. You know what I mean? I don't know. We may have a new wave of fans who are okay with these type of things taking place. And I don't necessarily have a problem with Bud even taking this fight. It's just the way he went about doing it. You know what I mean? You leave negotiations. You talk about how, disgruntled you are about certain things, within those negotiations. If you don't do that, if you have this fight and you continue those negotiations, you just say, I'm taking me a 2-0 fight, boom, the negotiations was taking too long, but I got to get me a fight in, in order to just be on my, A game, for that matchup, because I'm going to go ahead and whoop that dude. I just want to make sure I'm, I have everything flowing properly. Then I think anybody would be able to accept this and they would be able to digest this matchup much better. But it's just the way things are going, the way Bud is moving right now, talking about, I don't know if the Spence fight is going to take place. Then he's talking about fighting Charlo. You know, they talk about Spence now, and he says, I don't know if we're going to be able to get the fight. Then they mention Charlo, oh, I kick his ass. But then, hold on. So then you start thinking, well, you can't really fight Charlo because Charlo has so all of those type of things. He's moving funny, and it's alarming to see this with such a talented guy. When you think about Bud Crawford, he's a complete boxer. I was just checking him out earlier in that Crawford fight. The guy has so much ability that you would think that he would have his chest poked out, like bring them all on. He's that good, folks. This dude, boxing IQ is like excellent. He can pretty much do it all. He can apply pressure. He can counter punch. He's defensively has the defensive maneuverability. He can end fight. He shoots power shots from different angles. He's a tremendous finisher, you know, and he's a quality switch hitter, probably the best switch hitter in boxing. So with those type of accolades and those type of abilities, I should say, those type of skills, you would want to see somebody who was willing to take on all comers and not continue to fight these type of fights. When it comes to David Avanesyan, he typically, for the most part, now I've seen that he has some knockouts more recently, but when I've seen him in his bigger fights, like the Josh Kelly fight, he typically starts slow. And even in that fight, Josh Kelly was like giving him everything he can handle. He could not mess with Josh Kelly for the first two and a half rounds. Josh Kelly might be top 10 pound for pound in the world if he only had to fight 2 rounds. But after that, he just kept coming forward. And he got caught. It's either the first or second round. Josh Kelly almost got Avanesyan out of there. It was looking bad for him, but he gassed like around the latter part of the third round. And then it was all downhill from there. Avanesyan started to build up some steam, ahead of steam, and he got him out of that fight about the 6th round, I believe. The problem Avanesyan's going to have in this fight is that Bud has that reach where I think it's either him or Boots, or they both have equal, or they're both equal in reach, where they both have 74-inch arm reach. So with that being said, you're in punching range a lot of times when you typically wouldn't against most opponents. And he can land pretty powerful shots from weird angles. And that's going to be the problem that Avanesyan is going to have in this fight. I think that they both are pretty much slow starters. But Bud will pick it up if you clip him. Like, if you clip him and hurt him, then he's going to, like, come back at you. And he's going to try to get his lick back, get some get back. And that's what he typically does. So I don't know if Avanesyan really isn't that big of a puncher. And then Bud, I don't know, he seems to have one of those type of Tommy Hearns type of chins where minus, like Tommy Hearns, you can knock Tommy Hearns out. I don't know if Bud chin is that bad, but he can get wobbled. Like, you will see that his legs will, like, buckle a little bit. But at the same time, he gets back real quick. And he has that, man, his maneuvering ability is just top notch. You know what I'm saying? That's why I'm saying it's just so surprising, so perplexing to see him continue to take these limited opposition opponents on a consistent basis, when you would think with those skills that he has that he should be able to do away with anybody at any given time. And why would you continue to do this at your age? Because those type of dimensions that you have, those skills that you have, some of them may erode around this time. And the more you put things off, then the more likely, or the more you're going to give other fighters an opportunity to pick you off. So, but with that being said, I think that what's going to happen, both guys are relatively slow starters. I don't anticipate Avanesyan being able to get to Bud early, because he really, like I say, doesn't have that type of pop. Typically, it's just more so when he builds that head of steam and then he starts to, like, wear you down, then he's able to get guys out there. I don't see that happening. So I'm thinking that Bud is probably going to start picking up. He typically, like around rounds 4 and rounds 5. That's when he kind of has everything figured out. He adapted. He's adapted. He calculated the data. So I'm thinking in this one, he'll calculate the data and around round 4, and then maybe about round 6, round 7. So I say 7th round that he'll do away with David Avanesyan. What about you, Danny?
Before I go, what was your round again, Val?
I said the 8th round.
8th round. All right. Cool.
What did you say again, Will? What was your round?
7-30. 7-30.
So 7th round, you say a minute and 30 in the 7th round?
No, I have no clue. I think it might be 6. Like I say, I just can't see it. Based on what I've seen from Avanesyan, it's a huge gap in skill between these guys. And once Bud opens up on him, it's going to be hasta la vista, baby. Arrivederci.
Yeah, I can see Bud stopping him early, but the thing is, I think with this fight, he's trying to get some rounds in. If he stops Avanesyan in the 2nd round, which is possible, it's very, very possible he can stop him within 4 rounds. I think that would be a disservice to if I was his trainer, I wouldn't let that happen.
You better get him out of there when he can. He better not be like with that chin Bud got. I wouldn't be playing around with dudes. You know what I'm saying?
Well, first of all, I want to give you props for thugging that prediction out, Will. I know how you felt about the fight. Is well documented on this very platform. You know what I mean? So
and tough that one out. Tough that one out.
Mind if I say one thing, Danny?
You got it.
I was gonna say the more I started to look at this fight through the lens of a prediction and putting both guys together, it does make sense to a certain degree. I just don't like how it was like negotiated and like it coming out of, nowhere, when we had our mouths salivating over the Spence and Crawford fight, and then just like I say, out of nowhere, we get the Avanesyan, then you have Bud complaining about what was taking place during negotiations. I didn't like that part of it, but when I look and I see what Avanesyan does, because sometimes he's fighting out of that left-hand stance and he's pressuring. So who else is Bud going to fight that's going to do that? That would be Spence. So this is a good kind of like tune-up, not that he's like anywhere near Spence, but just, preparing for a guy who's going to pressure, and being prepared for that style. It makes sense. But at the same time, it just didn't make sense how he went about doing
it. Yeah, no, I'm 100% with you. You know what I mean? But I'm going to get mine out the way. That being said, so, there's a lot on the line for Bud here. The two most important things for him as a boxer in this fight is one, for the pay-per-view to do well, so he has some kind of leverage going back, theoretically, going back into those Spence negotiations. But I'm going to tell you right now, the pay-per-view will not do well. So the next biggest thing that he can control is how good he looks in this fight. It's almost like there's some degree of pressure. He's probably not going to feel it, but I'm sure he's hearing it. There's some degree of pressure to get Avanesyan out of there quick because the boxing public believes that he never belonged in the ring with him in the first place. Rightfully so. Now, like you said, Crawford usually spends those first few rounds downloading. I think he will expedite that process a little bit, maybe by a round or two, and will look to overwhelm Avanesyan early. I think that if Avanesyan can catch him coming in, he'll be able to keep him off of him for a while, but I don't think that that's going to actually happen. I'm just saying what I think he'll maybe try to do. But honestly, I can see Crawford, because they're both relatively slow starters, I can see Crawford pretty much seeing what it is and feeling the need to expedite this process and getting the better of him and overwhelming him early. And I could see the stoppage going down. I could see it in the 5th, but I'm going to say I'm stuck between the 5th or the 6th. But I'm gonna say the 6th. I think he'll stop him in the 6th. Anybody else got anything on this one?